Do you want to learn how to make 3D models inside of Blender? Well, you have clicked on the right video, as I'll show you the complete basics like movement and other tools in Blender to make your first ever model. Let's get started. Okay, so as you can see here, we are in the viewport, and this may look very intimidating, especially as a complete beginner to Blender, but in fact, we're only going to be using a very small portion of these settings today. First of all, movement. Let's get our movement so we can move around the viewport. Zoom in and out of the viewport. Quite simple, quite easy. And if you click the middle mouse button, you can also spin around the viewport. Finally, holding shift middle mouse button, click it, and you can move up and down and around the viewport. Quite simple, and that is a basic movement of Blender you've already learned today. Let's go over a few other things. Here is the outliner, as you can see here, and this is pretty much everything in your scene. Like this is our cube, which is outlined in orange. We've also got other settings as well, but we're not going to get into that today. We can save that for another video. Okay, first of all, let's delete this cube and replace it with something a little bit different. What we need to do first is make sure you're in object mode. We don't want to be in any of the other modes for these. We want to be strictly in object mode. Then simply select the cube, just click on it, and it should have this orange outline on it. Then just click delete or backspace on your keyboard. You have successfully deleted your first mesh. Okay, now we need to re-add a new mesh. So we can do this by going up, clicking add, go onto mesh. For today's tutorial, we're going to be making a barrel. So let's click the cylinder. You can also do this by using a shortcut by Shift A, mesh, and then click cylinder there. Now a few things before we start editing and manipulating this object. First of all, we need to go into edit mode. You can do this by going to the top left, clicking the drop down and going down to edit mode. Or you can press tab on your keyboard, which will go between object mode and edit mode. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, when we go into edit mode, if you just look right next to it towards the right, you can see that we are currently in vertex mode. These are these little points on the edge of the mesh here. You can use these to manipulate the mesh in very specific areas, but we're not going to be using this much today. We've also got edge mode here, which we will be using at some point today. And you see, these are a little bit larger than the vertex points. And as you can see here, select the edge of the mesh. And then we've got face select mode, which are the faces of the mesh. You'll be using these quite often during modeling. And okay, so let's get started creating our very basic barrel, but this is more to show the basics of Blender. Okay, first of all, we're going to click Control R, and as you can see here, make sure we're on the vertical edge loops, and we're just going to click so we can move the edge loop around. So let's just put one up here, Control R again, make sure you're on the vertical, and we'll just go up here, and we'll do it one more time. Let's put one down here, and for the final time, click again, and we'll just put it about there. For this model, it's not going to be perfect, but it's a very basic start. I've just changed my mind, we're going to put another one. Just remember that we're on the vertical lines here as well, and we'll just place the edge loop there. This is now our basic shape that we're going to manipulate the mesh with. So let's Alt and left click to select all of the edges around this mesh, and we'll do the same for the bottom. Holding Shift and Alt, this will now select all of it. And now we're going to go to scale, and we're going to scale this out a little bit, not too much, it's quite sensitive. This is just going to give the barrel a little bit more shape. You can do this by using the x-axis and the y-axis, and you see it just gives it a bit more of that curve. And we can then do the same here for the central one, so Alt and left click, move it in on the y-axis a little bit, and move it in on the x-axis a bit. just like so. We have a bit more of a curved model here. I'm just going to do it one more time just to make sure it's a little bit more equal. There we go. Okay, now we're going to change to face select mode at the top here. Like we shown before, we're going to do Alt. What we need to do here is left click this face here, and make sure you go to about here on your mesh. As if you go onto here, it for some reason doesn't do what I'm about to do properly. I'll show you real quick. So hold Alt and Shift and it will do that, which is something that we don't want to do right now. So let's re-click on this face here, and then we'll click Alt and Shift, and there we go. Let's press Shift and Alt again. For some reason it keeps messing around and not working properly. Sometimes we have to do it a few times for it to work. If it doesn't work, just leave a comment in the comment section and I'll try to help out. Okay, what we need to do now is press Alt E, extrude faces along normals, and as you can see, this will make the mesh go out. And let's just move it out a little bit more. There we go. And as you can see here, we have now extruded our mesh. Now, it isn't the best barrel, but it is okay for the first time. Now, we're going to make some few more adjustments before we conclude this tutorial. We're going to press Ctrl R and make sure we're on this vertical part of the mesh here, and we're going to just simply click and leave it in the middle. We're going to do the same for the one down here. So we're going to click and just double click so it stays in the middle. And what we're going to do is make sure we're in edge select mode, and we're going to do hold Alt and Shift, and that will select all around it. Move down, Shift and left click, Alt and Shift, and that will go all around that area as well. Now we're just going to go into scale like I'm already on, and we're just going to scale this out a little bit. You're probably best off doing this on a little bit of the x-axis and the y-axis. I think it's quite harsh here, but as you see, that should be okay. And this just gives the rims here a little bit more curvature, making it a little bit more realistic. Again, you can play around with this if you like to, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Now what I'm also going to do is just for one final step is we're just going to move here, and we're going to do Alt Shift and then left click here again, and we're just going to hold Shift, left click, Alt and Shift again, and we're just going to move these two up a little bit, and we're going to do the same for the bottom parts here. So Alt and Shift and Shift, left click and Alt, and we're just going to move those down a little bit. This just enhances that curve a little bit more, making it feel a bit more natural, as barrels can look like this in real life. And I might just scale this up a little bit to be a bit more of a barrel shape, and there you have it. Your first ever model inside of Blender. Even though right now it is quite basic, it is certainly a step in the right direction. It includes your first 3D model, and it's a pretty basic 3D model, but it's certainly a start, and we all start somewhere. I want to thank you all for watching today's video, and if there's any problems or any issues that you've had along the way, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try and assist. Thank you very much for watching.